Okay, we should be good. You might want to just make sure you speak into the microphone good.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. As Paul stated, I'm Russ. I am the new Chief Information Security Officer at UAH. Ray Vaughn, the VP for Research, is supposed to be here making the presentation, but had a family emergency. I'm going to do the best job I can to fill in. He created slides. How many people are here from UAH? Have that. But because of our partnerships with Redstone and the work that we do, we have that availability. All right, from data from NSF in fiscal year 11, we were 19 DoD R&D expenditures in the United States. Think about the size of the school versus the very large schools out there. For this size, it's very, very high number. 14 in NASA R&D. Number 5, federally financed research in aeronautical engineering fields. Number 19 in atmospheric sciences, 14 in computer science research, and 16 in federally financed astronomy. You guys have probably been around campus, probably more than I have actually. We've only been here for 5 weeks, so you're probably more familiar with these buildings as I am. Shelby Hall, nice little quad area. This is the new union, if you guys haven't been in charter union. And this is the nursing building. Right now it's just a drawing because it hasn't been completed yet. They're still working. But it's very nice facilities. If you guys haven't been there, go check out the union. We are a NSA Center of Academic Excellence. If you're not familiar with that, ours is in education. There are certain fields you can have Center of Academic Excellence. But this allows you to do more work with NSA than other places allow. So UAH was defined, I believe, about 5 or 6 years ago. There's currently 10 faculty in cybersecurity research on more than 10. Some here today, Dr. Marcus out there. He's involved in it, certainly we'll name him here in a minute. There are 3 colleges involved: Science, Engineering, and Business Administration. There's a master's degree currently in Information Assurance, IAS. With 3 different emphases for masters. There's currently a working on doing a bachelor's degree program also. That's not currently in place. I believe that is something that's here at Calhoun, but it's not currently at UAH. But that is certainly something we're working on. There is a certificate in IA studies available, and that is, again, something the university is definitely focused on research. This is actually a declaration where the Board of Trustees of the University of Alabama set up the Cybersecurity Information Awareness programs at UAH. It's a bunch of nice little verbiage saying, we back you doing this program. And we will fund it and we want to see you move forward. Again, as was presented a few minutes ago, Huntsville definitely is a very large target. We have a lot of research, so it's certainly an area that UAH Huntsville wants to be into big time. And has the backing of the Board of Trustees, which is a very good thing. Inside of UAH, these are the main people who are involved in the cybersecurity research right now. Sandra Carpenter in psychology, which seems kind of odd to me. When I first started in cybersecurity, I thought about why do you necessarily want psychology people involved, but if you want to know how people think, you want to understand the logic behind it. So over time, I started to understand that psychology people are some of your most valuable players on this, because they actually understand how people think. Not just technically, but also how they really think of their daily lives. You have Sarah Gray's computer science. The device on the bottom is called Thread. It's a device from digital intelligence. It's used for doing analysis of drives for forensics. Each of these are right block of drive bays that can accept different kinds of drives. Very useful for if you have a case of varied drives. You just pop them and use them as right blockers for things like compact flash, SD cards, whatever you want. These other labs, I sadly am not very familiar with yet, being there only 5 weeks again, but they are computer security labs on campus where you can do different kinds of research. The top lab is a SCADA lab that is coming to UAH. It's already been purchased. There will be some more information about it in future slides. But it kind of looks like a little game world, right? But what it is everything above the top of the card is a model of what it actually simulates out in the real world. And that way, everything down below it is real SCADA systems. If you start manipulating the SCADA system over here in the water tank, you may see exactly what my predecessor was talking about, where you may get a false reading. You may have a tank overflow or have the tank get down too low, and yet you can interrupt the signal going back to what's known as the human-machine interface, the displays for the user, and say that that tank is filled. You know, that's a very simple denial of service, basically, for people out in the technical world of you will not have water available. And that happens all the time for just errors. But what if that is coordinated? What if that is a gas pipeline that's sitting there, which I'll show a picture of in a few minutes, where you don't tell the user of the system of the HMI that the pressure is getting too high. And all of a sudden it blows up. All your feeds coming back from it say, no, the pressure's just fine, it's low pressure. And then all of a sudden your pipeline explodes, which happened in Russia a long time ago, and supposedly the NSA might have. But this lab has been purchased, it just has not been delivered yet. There's a guy in southern Alabama who's built 2 or 3 of these labs. That's very interesting. Example areas of interest for the taxi cab. You know, all kinds of problems like that. Modeling and simulation of different threats. Identity management. Yeah, that's a big deal. It always ties back to where's the user authenticated? How do you know that that user is who they say they are? Metrics of different security attacks out there. Trustworthy systems. How much do you trust your OS? So we were talking about Stuxnet. You could have Stuxnet where it's altering the operating system. How do you know if you can trust that system or not? You know, HMI is the human machine interface in this case. How do you know if you can trust the output coming from it? In the case of the example with this, you can look at the gauges. Hopefully there are manual gauges that tell you. And on pipelines, hopefully there's a manual gauge. But what if that pipeline is hundreds of miles or thousands of miles away and it's remotely being monitored? How do you know? You know, is there somebody sitting there looking at the gauge? Probably not. Policy development. I mean, of course, you can't control things unless you know the policy as well. But at the same time, you have a little bit of risk of not doing it. Vulnerability analysis. You know, again, if you don't know a vulnerability exists, how do you detect it? How do you protect against it if you don't know that vulnerability exists? It's very difficult to do. Look at virus scanners. They try to do where they can look at the systems to see something that looks like virus, but they only really know for viruses. So unless that vulnerability is already there and known, you can't really protect against it. Situational awareness. Know what your situation is in the cyber world and the information sharing. Privacy. You know, who wants all their information shared accidentally? FISMA compliance. Is everybody here familiar with FISMA and compliance with it? I was at a recent committee group meeting about FISMA, and I was very shocked how many universities just think FISMA is not even possible. Coming from the DoD world, I look at it and say, of course it's possible. It's just what do you have to give up for it? And that's a problem for users because they don't want to give up what they have to give up to be able to have the requirements of it. They want to do things like 2-factor authentication so that you can be more secure because you have the fact that you know and the fact that you have. Hopefully the attacker only ever gets the fact that you know the most and never gets something you have. So you're still safe with that. But are users willing to carry around something on their phone where they have to look at it and enter in a code every single time? That's a real problem. Intrusion detection. Again, you know, if there's an attack to you on the network, how do you know that it occurred? What do you see from it? And be able to detect that it even occurred. Digital forensics. That's becoming a very, very large topic for both commercial and law enforcement and government, because after something's happened, you have to analyze it to figure out what happened. If you never figure out the root of what happened, you never fix the problem. So a lot of vulnerabilities are actually discovered through incident response and digital forensics. SCADA/ICS, again, you know, very hotbed topic. So some of our outreach activities at UAH or Cyber Huntsville participation. Well, Alabama Cyber Research Consortium, you may have heard of this. It's a group between several different universities. I know Auburn, and we participated in UAH. I'm not familiar with other places doing that. Basically, it's where everybody gets together and let's work together on proposals that we see and research we see out there. Tennessee Valley Cyber Education and Economic Development Initiative. That's in the Northeast Alabama Community College. We work with them on BSides Huntsville. We're here today and we've participated in some of this, and hopefully in the future can participate more. And how about as best we can, which we see that as a great partnership. It's a great outreach for us. Support for Huntsville school system cyber initiatives. And my predecessor could probably speak more as to what we've done in the past with that, but I can't. But I know we've had some initiatives information assurance clubs and activities. We're currently reaching out, and on campus there is currently one main, but actually I should say two main computer security clubs that are based. One is the Information Security Club, and the other is the ISSA. Check. Correct. All right, current initiatives going on. We are currently involved in an Alabama statewide NSF EPSCoR cybersecurity proposal. The EPSCoR is basically a competitive research cyber proposal, where we all can work together on it as a state. Instead of working on it as a different university, we're trying to do this at the state. So that we can all get in and do the research together and come out with the best results. NSF proposal for University of Southern California Cybersecurity. That's currently pending, but it's been proposed and we expect to receive it. NSF Scholarship for Service proposal. Again, that's another one we'll talk about more in depth in a minute, but that's a $4 million proposal that we do expect to receive. NSF Scholarship for Service Capacity Building proposal. That will be the same kind of project except for it will be for building lab equipment and providing facilities for doing research. Cybersecurity Lab. This has already been purchased. We discussed it. It's just waiting. Undergraduate certificate program under development. This is one of the things that Dr. Vaughn and I both looked at when we got here at UAH, and we started looking and thought there should be an undergraduate program, not just a master's. So if you just want to get an undergraduate degree and move on into work, we want to see you have a cybersecurity background if you want. And so that's something that's currently being developed to figure out what classes fit. Scholarship for Service program. Again, that's one of the proposals we talked about. Proposed for 10 students per year, so 40 total in the project, or in the U.S. citizens capable of obtaining security clearance. This is a very good scholarship, but you have to meet that criteria. Pays a stipend of either $20,000, $25,000, $30,000, depending on your level of degree. So for your bachelor's, you get $20,000 a year. For master's, you get $25,000, and for PhD, you get $30,000. Book reimbursement of $1,000 a year. Health insurance up to $2,000. Professional development up to $3,000 per year. Obligation to serve the government for 2 years after graduation. So you get the money for 2 years while you're completing the last 2 years of your bachelor's, while completing your master's or your PhD. But your requirement is that you go to work for the federal government for 2 years. What does that mean? It means the clearances we were talking about earlier, essentially. It means working on very cutting-edge research. So I don't look at this as a requirement. It's actually a good opportunity. Because people who graduate college usually have trouble finding jobs, or some do. In this case, you go to the federal government for 2 years. It's a guaranteed job. And that works out really well. Most of the students that I talked to have been on scholarship for service have really enjoyed because of the work they did. Also, something that's not listed here is during the summer between the 2 years, you will do an internship where it will be paid for a federal agency. Again, another way to understand better what's up. Is there anybody here that's been on SFS scholarships? There's a lot in Huntsville, I'm sure, based on the curriculum. Excellent recruitment tool for UAH and source of talent for best. Again, all the DoD and federal facilities that are best. This is a great opportunity for us to partner more with them and have students that can graduate and go to work at Redstone with a very good computer security background and be ready to go for 2 years in the program. Future initiatives. Expand and increase laboratory facilities for cybersecurity education and research. There's about 4 different organizations inside of UAH right now that are trying to build better lab environments. We are hoping to try to get them together to partner and build the best lab environments we can for cybersecurity. Move into non-traditional areas of cyber. ICS. ICS is industrial control systems, same kind of things as scale. Automotive, UAS, and digital forensics. More support for IA club activities. People who are doing clubs, we definitely want to support them as best as possible because they're the ones who are doing this just for fun. And that's a great thing. But we also want to see more growth on the professional side. Offensive operations. Definitely an area we want to move. More teaming with research partners. Again, there is over 300 businesses inside of Research Park, and they all have to be thinking about cybersecurity. We definitely want to partner as much as we can and work with them as best we can. Industrial control system. and evolving forever. These are Dr. Vaughn's observations and opinions, but I concur. Cyber physical systems include industrial control systems. Control systems are computer-based facilities, software networks, and connected to the internet in a lot of cases. Back in the earlier days, when you had electrical engineers who were controlling the SCADA systems and the ICS systems, they would use 9-pin serial connections to do it. But they started thinking along the way, look at the air gap as we were talking about, but of course air gaps don't fix the problem completely. They just help mitigate it as one layer of the onion for helping security. But these days, you don't want to buy too many in 10 years or more out of date. This is an area where only a few are conducting serious research, and even a few are using the results of that work. There's several universities and several different research organizations looking into it. Not a whole lot, but the industry in general is not following those recommendations yet. If you start looking at the SCADA systems out there, they are very insecure in the way they're designed. They are that bad. This sector is a sector you only learn it. Yes. And think about the consequences of it. Consequences are losing power, losing sewer, losing water. There's a high payoff in terms of public observation and confidence if they're attacked. So if somebody does attack it, how does that make the U.S. look? If you take a look at the attack that happened last year in California, it was not a cyber attack. They physically attacked some power grids and did some damage to them. But what if that had been cyber? They wouldn't have just attacked one location. The research priority internationally. It's a big problem. Reasons for concerns. Control systems or computer systems, just smaller and more vulnerable. Most of them run older versions of Windows that have not been upgraded in a very long time because they made their software work with it, and because it works, they don't want to take it down to replace it and upgrade it. Control systems are often old, 10 years for old. Because this is a world where they put in devices and they want to see those devices last as long as possible. Whereas in the corporate world, people get tired of their computers get slow, right? That's the way they look at it. So you replace those computers. But with these systems, they're just feeding the same amount of data time after time after time. So you're not doing more with them usually. So why do they need to be upgraded in place? Is that our mindset? But of course, security boards like to use not to forget that. Control systems are often connected to the internet, not managed by actual professional staff, and heavy reliance on wireless communication. There's a specific vendor that we work with SCADA systems that is their primary method, is using wireless. And they do some smart things with wireless, but overall, how easy is it to intercept or just keep denial of service models. So if I didn't want to actually manipulate their traffic, I could just deny it from getting back. Again, in the case of a had one, I might stop it from getting the feed back to the HMI software so they don't see this media compression. Maybe I can control it a different way. Previous research has shown significant vulnerabilities. We'll talk about 2 or 3 that we discovered at a different research institution. A strong set of mitigation tools does not exist. There is a few tools for finding vulnerabilities inside SCADA systems that are designed specifically for SCADA systems. There are not many. And by the way, there are attack tools that are designed specifically for SCADA that you can buy in foreign countries, but not very many protection tools. They are being attacked today. That is the biggest issue, is they are certain to be attacked. So this is a basic view of how a SCADA system might work. So you have your corporate IT world over here. You have a firewall that's potentially restricting your SCADA devices away from others. You have some kind of control station here. And this is where that HMI I'm talking about comes in. You can see like an output on the screen here, where they have just some kind of output, usually that looks like kind of a game world that says this is working this way, or have little dots. So it's like you'd be out in the field, but at the same time you can monitor lots of them from one screen. In a lot of cases, they use default passwords if the password didn't change suitable on the systems, because some of the SCADA systems you cannot change the passwords. In a lot of cases, it's just friendly to leave the password the way it is. That way, if somebody else comes behind you, it's easy to use. But again, that's not good security. That's not something that needs to be done. You have the actual physical devices over here. And you'll have a PLC, RTU, or SCADA type device over here that's monitoring the traffic, monitoring what it needs to monitor, whether it's pressure, how much is filled, whatever sensor you need for it. You put it over here and have feedback to the operator console and to the HMI. Again, if you interrupt that connection right there, you don't know what's going on with your stuff. Hopefully you have main gauges you can fall back on, but where the main gauge is going to be, they're not going to be over here sitting in the unit, they're going to be out here. So people would actually have to be out there to know. In a lot of cases, if you think about pipelines, that's not what we're not all. Things that concern us. Data from SCADA systems is often sent in clear text. There are multiple protocols you can use for sending traffic between different SCADA devices. There are a few that are encryptable, but overall, most of them are sent in clear text. Heavy use on wireless, again, unsecured wireless. We're not talking using web or WPA or anything, or WPA2, technology like that. We're talking to stock wireless, sometimes in the 900 megahertz range or whatever range they decide to do. And they use transmission capabilities. Protocols are not robust. If you think about it in the world of TCP/IP, you have retries if you don't get that. In these worlds, a lot of times those don't exist. And so if you jam some traffic and punch across, you may not know if you ever get it, or they may not ever have it. Data can be changed or repeated. Again, there's no sequence numbers like there is in TCP/IP in a lot of these protocols, so you can just keep sending the same data over and over again. If you have the ability to grab it, you can copy it and start sending it out. Connections to corporate networks. You know, that was a bad idea when they did it, in my opinion, when the sites did it. It's a bad thing to do because you need to isolate these networks, but that's at least one step. You have to have that engineer come in or that flash drive to be able to get into that network. Unpatched software, properly configured software, and inadequate physical controls. A lot of the places don't secure their devices. They think of the end device as not being encrypted. They think of their HMIs as being very critical assets to them, but not being devices. But if you can, instead of attacking the using the HMI interface, just go out to the end device and attack it. As a computer security researcher, looking at these are like looking at 30 years ago's traffic. And it's very true. Kind of scary, right? Who's looking for your SCADA infrastructure? Has anybody ever heard of Team Cumri? Team Cumri is an organization that monitors different things on the internet. A couple of years ago, they did a research study to see who was scanning for ranges that are SCADA controlled ranges. And you can kind of see there's a lot of dots over in this area, a lot of dots over here, some interesting dots over in this area, and some down here. And they came up and said, this is the pie chart for where the scanning was done by country. You can see out of their list, 3,345 of the scans came from China. Don't let this list over here confuse you, because that's that little big section. That's just a big break. So Taiwan was 152, other was 145 that couldn't identify, US was 58. Again, in the US, it could have been an attacker, or it could have been they were just using a machine that they compromised somewhere else as a man in the middle to attack. So who knows where the ones in the US came from. China could be the same way, of course, but that was the last hop before they started scanning those devices. Russia was an interesting one over here in the UK, but again, probably a lot of compromise issues involved. So previous research that Dr. Vaughn and I've been involved in, 5+ years of research in SCADA at Mississippi State University SCADA Lab, where we built one of the first SCADA labs that were inside of the university. The side effect was a SCADA attacker was arrested. The FBI went to his house, arrested him, and he's now in jail. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. We discovered many actual SCADA vulnerabilities that exist today. Not notional vulnerabilities. These still exist today. We have notified the vendors of these. We have done the proper steps that is going through NSA, but the vendor has not patched it. These are repeatable and existing critical infrastructure. Purchasing a Cybersecurity lab for UAH. Partnered with USC on NSF proposals to integrate a trusted OS into SCADA operating environment. If you're not familiar with trusted OSs verify every command they're running on them before they run them and make sure that the privilege levels are right. It's an idea that comes really heavily into the DoD world, but there are very few truly trusted OSs. They're very limited in what they do, but they're very functional and very secure. This is the SCADA security lab that Mississippi State University currently has. This guy is Dr. Wesley McGurk. He just finished his PhD there. He will be talked about in a minute when we talk about the attacker. This is the lab environment that we were talking about earlier. You can see there's a little pipeline back there. These are 2 laptops that are set up as HMI interfaces. And then we had 2 water tanks here. There's also a ball drop in there that determines how much air airflow is going up and how much pressure is on the airflow. There's also a conveyor belt on the other side that you can't see over there. This is a new device that bought. These were using SCADA packed LP devices at the bottom that were wirelessly connected. I believe this was an Allen Bradley. They purchased this after I left, but I believe it's an Allen Bradley device. And you can see an HMI output here. So this is a very simple one where you have the water tower here and it's simulating this one. And you can see the different red, green, yellow type readouts. It also has how full it is, and you can turn on and off the pumps to simulate the real world environment that you're doing. There's a better gas pipeline. You see this is actually a blow-off valve that's manually controlled, and this is an HMI or SCADA controlled blow-off valve. So that if this gets over pressure, you can see blow-off. We don't have a good picture here. There was a attack done in this lab environment against this device where the HMI output was showing that it had 20-ish PSI or so. But if you go over here and look at it, it was actually 90 PSI. You know, in the real world, what would that mean to a natural gas pipeline? You may be able to pump it up at high enough PSI to find a weak spot in the blow it, which could cause an injury. So case studies. Vulnerabilities exist in HMI software. GE Find prevents IFX. This is one of the ones we first focused on because we saw some interesting things. Started looking at how they store their passwords. They didn't do a very good job of doing passwords. There was an authentication bypass used. We'll go more into those in the slides. Allow those with access to escalate privileges in the SCADA system. Lower level personnel with physical access, cleaning staff, or whatever you can think of. Remove attackers with access via other /mainstream and exploits. In some of the worlds in SCADA, if you're operating a system that might be a remote water treatment plant or tower, you might use something like PC Anywhere or VNC to be able to connect to it. So you have the regular cyber vulnerability of, is that software vulnerable? But they're okay with that because then you have to use a password to access iFix and HMI. But maybe you don't need that. So that might not be the best option. So here is part of the case study for it. And again, this is the HMI interface I was just showing you a little about it. And this vulnerability that we just talked about was documented in US Cert Vulnerability 310355 and also in A 2009-02-1001. What we found was we started looking at a certain file that it transferred back and forth, XP compat.utl. And we saw the file got modified often. Usually, you know, in the application directory, you don't usually see things get modified that often. So every time we change a password, we noticed this file got modified. So we started tracking it, and that's kind of interesting. And Dr. Washington Drew is the one who did most of the work on this. What we found was that the password, if you guys are familiar with XOR, they use XOR with a static key to be able to store that password in that file. All the values were XOR with it. So it's pretty easy if you know that static key to XOR. Well, in this case, what we could do easily is we found the static key in memory. That was easy. But we decided, how could we find this otherwise? So we started setting accounts to known passwords. Once we start setting known passwords, we can XOR out what the static key is. So that's very easy to have some fun with. I called the vendor. They weren't really happy that we found this, and they didn't want to find this. NSA got involved. After a period of time, we finally just opened out and released it after GD clearance. So XOR, if you're not familiar with it, so assuming that X password Y is the key here, if you have 0 XOR 0 is 0, you XOR 0 1 1 0 1 1 1 0. It can be used as a form of encryption, but the other key that you XOR with doesn't need to be recorded in memory in the same kind of way, which means it has to be provided also. Otherwise, we would be able to brute force it. Not a good choice for password storage. So we did that, and then afterwards we started looking at it, and we started just debugging the program until it was fine. The way that they did their application to check for authentication, we found that there was a jump flag. And there was a condition set on the jump flag saying, jump if this is true. So we decided just to modify that in the DLL file and change it to modify it if it's false. It was a whole lot easier to guess a wrong password than a right password for this. So basically, you just enter in the wrong password and you're in. That's even sounds relatively. Worked quite well for it, and Wesley McGrew, because he liked playing with the U3 thumb drives with the auto runs on them, decided that it was a good idea to make one of these that would just automatically work if you plug the thumb drive in. Right? That worked quite well too. If you walked up to the machine that was running nationwide, plugged in the thumb drive and it had auto run enabled, it would run as utility and just go ahead and break the password for you instantly. Again, not a good idea. Case study number 2, Iconics Genesis 32, another HMI vendor out there. We got this one and we're just playing around with it just to see what we can do. We went to log into it and we found this interesting. It has a challenge down here. And so we started looking into what does that challenge do? Why is it there? And Genesis decided that it was a good idea to add this challenge in case somebody forgets the password. You can call them up and they will vet you very well over the phone, verifying you are who you say you are, and you give them this challenge code. And we did this for fun, and they will give you back a code that you can use as a password to log in. That is in case somebody loses all the passwords you need to recover. What we found out was that this password was just the first 8 characters of the MD4 of that, which you could calculate with any device easily, of course. So we called up Genesis and we disclosed this to them, and they removed the challenge. They said, we don't really have a use for it, people don't really use it, so we'll just get rid of it. That was a bad idea on our part, right? And that worked out really well. We were happy to see that because we decided we would just have some fun and write a nice little utility here that you go, you enter the challenge code, it gives you the first data and then before on your phone, you should go ahead and that. Proof of concept, of course. This is the case we're talking about. This is, again, Wesley McGrew. This is Mr. McGraw up top. Don't confuse the two. Kudos, that's Wesley. Wesley McGrew was looking around, chatting with some people online, found some information where they were claiming they could attack some control systems. He's working on his PhD at the time in control system security. And so he decided to, hey, ask them for some information. He asked them, can you provide me some information on what you have? They start providing information. He finds out that the person he's actually chatting with is not the person doing the attack. It was not this gentleman. It was another gentleman that was claiming to have done the work. But when he dug deep enough, they said, oh, we need to go talk to this guy. So he started talking to him about it and found a nice video online that shows Mr. McGraw here, who works in a hospital, trying to take over the HMI software to be able to control things like air conditioning going to and humidity to a surgical wing at the hospital. And also the pharmaceuticals, which was, both of those are scary because if you're in surgery and all of a sudden the heat comes on, it goes too high, that's a problem. Otherwise, you could spoil medicine without people knowing it if you just take that funds. So really bad situation. McGrew started taking a look at it, started talking to Dr. Vaughn about it, ended up calling some federal agencies about it. FBI got involved in it. Over time, there was different information about it, but basically we got sentenced to 9 years for the hospital not where it was. The root of the issue was he was actually a security guard at night at the hospital. So he had physical access. But it doesn't mean that he had to have physical access. But in this case, he did have physical access. He is now in jail, going to be there for another, I guess, 5 to 6 years. Has 3 years of probation. After that, I believe, has to pay a large fine back to the hospital for the damage he has done. All right, so the takeaways from this. Low skill can lead to the heavy consequences of SCADA attacks. And that's very true. Previous slide very much shows it. The guy was not very skilled, he just had access. Human-machine interface security is important for laws today. That is certainly true. Because I like power in my house, I'm sure everybody here does too, like water. Physical security can be very possible. Taking action on serious incidents that present themselves is important. If you see something occur on the network, you need to take action to figure out why it happened, how it happened, and how you can prevent vendors of SCADA hardware and software need to consider security in their design phase. With GE Phonic, we had a talk with them about how they did their authentication, and they asked us how we would advise them fixing it. And we looked at it and gave them a list, but it basically incorporated redesign from the ground up. The way they did it just did not work. So is there any questions, comments, thoughts? Sure. All of the above. Some of the vendors are very happy when you call them and say, I found this vulnerability, I'm not going to disclose it out to the real world. I want you to create a hash and fix it for your people, which is the responsible thing to do. You want them to fix it before it gets disclosed. But in the case of the Genesis, we found that this was well known. We started doing some looking into it, and we found that this was well known, published on the internet. And so we definitely took action on it. In other cases, larger companies have not been so responsive and have threatened us for if we disclose. And so we've been more hesitant to disclose those, of course, but had federal agency backing. Anybody else?
You guys heavily involved in the standard of that design for this framework for System 443 and some of the throughout the
We are aware of them. Dr. Vaughn has been involved in a lot of discussions with people involved in those, but not as intimately as we would like. Right?
Is there anything worse, or do you see any likelihood of there being a push for some serious governmental regulation in regards to these kinds of softwares?
I don't know how to answer that one, actually. I would like to see that because it needs to be there, because it matters to our lives. It matters to our quality of life. They need to fix it. And there is certainly certain government agencies that are looking into this. Some of the big national labs you're probably familiar with doing a lot of SCADA research. If you are interested in what SCADA can do to destroy things, you can go look on YouTube for a video from Idaho National Labs to where they took a generator, a large diesel generator, and actually made it fall off of the stand by the SCADA controls. It shows so hard it fell off. Sir?
Are you, so, you know, I'll talk about the national labs and research for 10, 12, 15 years, right? I mean, they're pretty much a bomb data when it comes to data, right? In fact, did UAH form a relationship?
I believe so. That is a question Dr. Vaughn can answer better. At Mississippi State University, we did form those relationships, and I suspect we will be in the future. Because that is certainly, they are some of the bigger players and have been in it longer, and they have very large facilities, which is very useful.
What type of costs are entailed in upgrading security for ICS?
It's going to be expensive. If you think about all the devices that are out there that are reading it and having to upgrade every single one of those devices is very expensive for companies. The HMI software is not incredibly expensive typically, and the computers that run them are normal computers, so that's not a big deal there. But all the devices that are out there and the networks to support them and get it back to you may be very expensive depending on the size of the company.
Are there initiatives from the research part of this to start to use the cost of this and make sure that's in problem?
I can say that the research that we've done, we've always tried to keep the cost in mind as far as development of what it would take to modify